My name is Daniel. I'm 29 now, but this happened when I had just turned 24. I was working as an assistant editor for a small advertising studio in São Paulo, which basically meant long hours, cheap instant coffee, and constant headaches from staring at footage until everything looked the same shade of grey. I lived alone back then, in a small apartment near Villa Mariana, the kind of place where the elevator always smells faintly of someone else's dinner. At the time, I'd gotten into this habit of watching true scary stories videos on YouTube while I edited. You know the type, titles like 3 terrifying true scary stories or 4 creepy cases that happened at night. I'd play them in the background because I liked the narrator's voice. It kept me awake during late-night edits. They felt distant, almost fictional. Bad things happened to other people in other countries, not me. Not in my boring, predictable routine. The irony isn't lost on me now. I remember thinking I had nothing interesting to tell anyone. My days were spreadsheets, timelines, file names, protein bars, nothing story-worthy. And then one weekend changed everything, quietly, slowly, like a stain spreading through paper. It wasn't supernatural. It wasn't a ghost or a demon or anything people online argue about in the comments. It was a person, a real person, with absolutely nothing to lose. And I guess that's why I'm writing this here. Because what happened still doesn't make perfect sense, and maybe someone else has gone through something like it. It was a Saturday in July, winter here, but the kind of mild winter where you wear a hoodie more out of habit than necessity. I had no big plans, so I woke up late, made a lazy breakfast, and decided to take my laptop to a cafe I liked a few blocks away. They had these firm wooden chairs that weren't comfortable, but somehow perfect for working. I remember the way the morning felt. Grey light, low clouds, the air smelling like rain but not delivering it. I put on headphones and edited this annoying commercial about a new juice brand that pretended to be organic, even though everyone knew it wasn't. Around noon, I got hungry and decided to walk to a small bakery a few streets over. It was the kind of place with old fluorescent lights and trays of salgados, slowly drying under heating lamps. I ordered a coccinha and a Coke Zero and sat by the window. Nothing remarkable. I scrolled through my phone, replied to a friend about maybe grabbing drinks that night. Checked an email from my boss telling me there'd be new footage arriving Monday. Completely normal. When I finished eating, I tossed my trash and stepped outside. A light drizzle had started. I remember thinking it was the kind of rain that never fully committed, just enough to make the sidewalks darker, not enough for an umbrella. I headed back toward my apartment. I wasn't in a hurry. I wasn't thinking about anything important. In fact, I'm pretty sure the last normal thought I had before things shifted was that I should buy a new plant for my living room because the old one was slowly dying. It's strange which details you remember. I noticed him when I turned onto the quieter street leading to my building. At first, he was just another person walking ahead of me, a tall guy in a dark jacket, hood up. He didn't look suspicious, just there. But he kept glancing back, not fully turning around, just these quick over-the-shoulder looks, as if checking for traffic or trying to recognize someone. The kind of harmless behavior you dismiss instantly. Except he did it again. And again. I slowed down, pretending to check my phone so he'd get farther ahead. But he slowed too, not dramatically, just enough that we maintained the same distance. Like a magnet repelling another. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he was anxious or lost. A million reasonable explanations. but something about the way he moved bothered me. His shoulders were stiff, like he was bracing for something. And every few steps, he reached up and touched the back of his neck, almost compulsively. When he turned the corner toward my street, my stomach tightened. There was no reason for him to go that way unless he lived in one of the 3 buildings at the end. I'd never seen him before, but that didn't mean anything. People move, people visit friends. Still, I waited before turning the corner. I stood there under the drizzle, pretending to read a message that didn't exist. After about 15 seconds, I peeked around the corner. He was standing still, not walking, standing, looking at a parked car, but not really looking at it. More like looking through it, like someone pretending to admire a vehicle so they wouldn't seem suspicious. I ducked back before he could notice me. My heart was picking up, but I kept whispering to myself, "Relax, you're being dramatic. Nothing's happening." But a small, cold instinct told me otherwise. I decided to take the long way home, an extra block that circled around to the other side of my building. It wasn't far, but it meant I could avoid walking past him. I made it halfway down the street before I heard footsteps behind me. Fast ones. I didn't look back immediately. I just kept walking, forcing myself not to break into a jog. The footsteps got louder, closer. Then they slowed to match my pace. That was the moment I realized it was him. A pulse of cold shot through my arms. I glanced at a shop window, pretending to look at a display, using the reflection to check behind me. He was there, maybe 15 meters back. Hood still up, head slightly angled toward me as if listening. When he noticed me looking, even through the glass, he immediately looked away. Too fast, too deliberate. I started walking faster. He did too. Not enough to be obvious, but perfectly calibrated to keep the distance. My building was close now, but something in me refused to lead him directly to where I lived. I cut right instead, heading toward a busier avenue. For a second, I thought I'd lost him. I checked the reflection in a storefront. Empty sidewalk. Then I saw him across the street. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was staring directly at me, not smiling, not moving, just staring with this strange focus, as if memorizing my face. Cars passed between us, but he didn't break eye contact. That was when my adrenaline kicked in fully. I walked straight into a small mini-market near the corner, pretending I needed something. The automatic doors closed behind me, and for a brief moment, I felt safe. That feeling lasted maybe 10 seconds. I went to the window. He was standing right outside, half concealed behind one of the pillars. Watching the entrance, I pretended to browse the shelves, my hands shaking so badly I dropped a packet of pasta. The cashier, a guy barely in his 20s, glanced over. "Você tá bem?" he asked. "Tenho cara me seguindo," I whispered. The cashier frowned, walked a bit closer, and peeked toward the front. "Cadê?" "He's behind the pillar," I said. "Dark jacket." He looked again, longer this time. When he turned back to me, his expression had changed. Tight, uneasy. "Ele estava olhando pra cá," he said quietly. I swallowed hard. "Can you, I don't know, call security or something?" "We don't have security." There was a beat of silence. "I can call the police," he offered, though he sounded unsure. Before either of us could act, the automatic door slid open. The man stepped inside, slowly, deliberately, as if he had every right to be there. Up close, I could finally see his face. Mid-30s maybe, pale, eyes that didn't seem to blink enough, stubble like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't look at the cashier, he looked at me. "Você tá bem?" he asked, but his voice was wrong, flat, rehearsed, like he was mimicking the cashier's tone. "I don't know you," I said, backing away. He smiled. It wasn't friendly. "I know." The cashier moved slightly behind the counter, reaching for his phone. The man turned his head sharply toward him. "Don't call." 2 words, not yelled, but filled with something cold. Certainty, maybe. Threat. I felt something primal kick in. I bolted. I sprinted past him, shoving his shoulder with everything I had. He stumbled, cursed, reached out to grab me, but missed. I burst out onto the street and ran harder than I'd ever run in my life. I didn't look back, not once. I didn't go home. I ran 3 blocks, ducked into another store, and begged the owner to let me stay inside while I called the police. They arrived about 15 minutes later, took my statement, and drove around the area. They didn't find him. They told me things like, probably a misunderstanding, maybe he wanted money, maybe he was confused, all the generic phrases meant to calm someone down. I nodded, but I didn't believe any of it. I didn't go back to my apartment for 2 hours. When I finally did, I checked every hallway, every stairwell, every shadow. I slept with a chair pushed against the door. For weeks afterward, I kept replaying the confrontation in my head. The stare, the smile, the calmness. It wasn't the look of someone trying to rob me. It was something else, something that still makes my stomach knot when I think about it. It's been 5 years now. I've moved twice. I changed routines, jobs, neighborhoods. Life went on. But sometimes, once every few months, I get this prickling feeling that someone's behind me on the street, watching, matching my pace. And last year, on a random Tuesday at a bus stop, I glanced up and saw a tall man in a dark jacket across the road, staring. No smile this time, just that same unblinking focus. I blinked, and he was gone. I don't know if it was him. I'm not sure what scares me more.